Коллеги, мы продолжаем нашу онлайн-конференцию WebPromoExperts Day. Впереди последний доклад, но, наверное, один из самых интересных. Маркетинг-директор компании Majestic Dixon Jones поделится тем, какие эффективные стратегии будут работать в 2017 году. Доклад на английском, передаю слово Диксону. Hi, Dixon, you can start.
Hi, thank you very much, guys, and thanks for staying the whole day. I guess it's been a long day for some of you there, and I apologise for only being able to speak in English. I apologise for that. I'm going to be talking about link building to improve your search visibility, and I wanted to start really by covering a basic question. The basic question: do links still matter in search engines? We as SEOs have a tendency to intuitively believe whatever another SEO tells us, and we don't often go and look for the facts. This is an article that came out last year from Stone Temple, Eric Enge, and he did a study looking at whether links still mattered and came out with some striking conclusions that links still matter a lot in search engines. But there's other evidence from Google as well that still tells us that it's still happening. For example, Andrei Lipitsev, also a Googler, I think you guys probably know better than us over in the West. He said on Search Engine Land, or was reported on Search Engine Land, as saying that the three most important factors in Google's algorithm now are links, content, and rank brain. So those are the top three signals according to Andre. And this T-shirt I'm wearing here is a picture of me on the right there, is also a quote from Gary Illies, who said this in October 2016, so October of last year. This T-shirt's from Link Research Tools, but Gary said, look, ranking without links is really, really hard. So we have it from the horse's mouth, we have it from Google, we have it from the stats as well, that links still matter. But this takes us to the next question. Oh, and just a few days ago, actually, this is 9th of February, so what, 5-6 days ago, Gary said, do you know, he said on Twitter, that after 18 years, we're still using PageRank and hundreds of other signals in ranking. And he said that 6 days ago. So clearly, it's still an important thing. The next question then is why? Why links still matter? And if we go away from the search engines a little bit and think about links from the point of view of us as human beings, and imagine you're on a page and you're about to click on a link. Before you click on that link, you as a human can understand something about the content that you're going to go to when you click on the link. By knowing the domain of the link or the brand, you'll know the kind of reach that page has at the other end. You'll know the relevance to what it is that you're reading at the time before you click on it. You'll have some idea of intent, of the influence that the page that you're on might have over the page that it's linking to. You'll also have an idea of whether it's timely, whether it's evergreen information, or whether it's brand new news that is an important, timely bit of news. So you've got information about what the meaning is, the power of the link, the context of the passion, so many different things, and all of those things can be measured by you as a human being, and so can be measured by an algorithm as well. So there is so much context and meaning within a link that it becomes very difficult for a search engine not to use it as a ranking factor. In fact, Yandex did. They did try for a number of for a period of some months a couple of years ago, and they went back to using it because it became such an important factor for them. So links still matter, but what's interesting is that there was a study done by BuzzSumo in November. And BuzzSumo are influence management people, so they look at influencers online, and they looked at what the differences were between the kind of content that people tend to share versus the kind of content that people tend to link to. And they found some quite striking differences between those two different pieces of content or types of content. The sorts of things that people share were information that might be entertaining, for example, that might just give somebody a smile. People share content to nourish relationships, to try and get in with other people. They do it to get the word out for causes, whether you're going to a rally or to an event. They'll use sharing a lot for that sort of thing, and also for helpful and valuable content. But they also share content to be part of a tribe. So we're SEOs, so we're web promoters. So we want to be part of that tribe. So we might say different things to somebody that's interested in what musicians play or what films might be on next week. But people link to content, BuzzSumo found, for very different reasons. They link to content perhaps as a reference to support an article, so it backs things up. If you look at a lot of particularly SEO content, it's I this, I think that, and it's all opinion, and very little of it is backed up. And the best content has references and cites articles that are going to support the argument that is being made on the page. People link to authoritative content, including research and facts, again to back up the argument that is being made on the page that you're reading. They also link to share valuable content such as guides and that sort of thing, but they also link to share new information, stuff that's new to the world. And then the last thing that we found, that BuzzSumo found that was very different, was that they link to data that consistently changes, because it's very difficult for you to write a blog post about a changing landscape, such as the stock market or that sort of thing, without linking to the live prices and the live data. So that's another good reason. So there were some very big differences between what people link to and what people share online. And that can help us, I think, to develop better content for SEO and to create better link profiles. So the next question was, how many links is enough? And I get asked this, or used to get asked this when I was agency side, and obviously the answer is it's not that simple. But that's not really a helpful answer if you're talking to your clients, if you're talking to end customers who really need a better answer than it's not that simple. So we need to come up with a better methodology. So we have to explain to them that links can have wildly different strengths. And I do think that people underestimate the difference between those strengths. One link can be 1 million or 1 billion times, well, certainly 1 million times stronger than another link, just because of the difference of where it sits on the internet. So that wildly different strengths is a very important concept to be able to take back to the customer, or to take back to yourself, to understand why how many links is enough is a very difficult thing to answer. People also don't understand that internal links affect the strength of websites as well, very, very heavily. What's different between an internal link, though, and an external link is that an external link will add power to the site as a whole. It will add power to the page, and therefore the internal links from that page then become stronger. Whereas internal links just help to redirect the existing power of the website, or the cumulative pages on the website. So we can't estimate the number of links, but we can estimate page strength, or we can't estimate how many links is enough, but we can estimate page strength. Moz try to do that with their page authority metric, and Majestic, of course, do that with their trust flow and citation flow metrics. And both of those are scores between 0 and 100. Well, Moz have a decimal point, so it's still the same sort of scale of how influential any web page is on the internet. And that really helps, because that information, at least with Majestic, is entirely made up of many, many billions of micro calculations of all the links on the internet, and how that then gives weight to each individual page on the internet. So how many links is enough is difficult, and when you start looking at numbers, you don't get very good information. So here are 10 sites that rank for the word Majestic, not Majestic itself, but 10 sites here. Let's blow them up. And one at the top in the US, I think I took this from Florida, I believe. So at the top, we've got Majestic Athletics. Now, Majestic Athletic is a retailer, a shoe retailer, a sports retailer, and they've got 21,000 links coming into that website, and that's great. But down in position 3, you've got a page at marcustheatres.com, and that page has only got 38 external links, and yet it's still coming in at number 3 in those listings. So 38, whereas the one below has got 1,400, the one below that 12,000, and then just a little bit further down we've got another page with 150. So clearly it's not obvious from the absolute number of links, but when you do the maths, you do get to something that equates to something that correlates, at least has some kind of meaning. So Majestic Athletic is stronger than most of the sites below. We've got Majestic Products down there in about position 7 or so, which seems out of sync for us. But our metrics are made up slightly differently, and we found different things. But certainly the absolute number of links, whilst important, is not what's going to do it. It's the power of those links. So why does that happen? Well, this is a very simplified version of the internet, but essentially if page A links to page B, links to page C, links to page D, links to page E, and you build all those links up, then you can build up a pattern, and PageRank is made up of very similar maths to the trust flow metric, or the same sorts of ideas, and so they all follow this idea that the strength of one page can affect the strength of the next page, which can affect the strength of the next page, and so on. So from that, we can see, just by looking at this microcosm of the internet, that page B is much more likely to be, page A is much more likely to be influential than page B. Even though page B has 3 links going into it and page A only has 2 links going into it, it doesn't take too much in our human minds to interpret that there's a very big difference here, and that page A is a stronger link. Which is why there is no correlation between link count and rankings or influence or page rank or trust flow or whatever other metric you can have. So with all that behind us, I'm going to go through 7 practical examples of how you can use links to better your search engine rankings. And the first 2 are tricks that don't require any content. And then the next 5 are, I'm going to show examples of where content was written which dramatically increased the amount of links compared to other content within that peer group. So we'll go through the first one, which is pretty straightforward, which is low-hanging fruit of 404s, then internal link tricks, original insights and research, referenceable content. You can read it on the screen. I'll just carry on. So the first one, low-hanging fruit 404s. On most websites, there are links to pages which don't exist. And the bigger your business, the more likely that is to happen. And it's not a one-off thing, because as you carry on, people will mistakenly link to the wrong pages on your website. They will do typos, or you will have pages that come off and start to break. What you do not want to do, what Google doesn't like to see, is a situation where it's impossible to create a 404 error. So you have to be able to create 404 errors, otherwise Google thinks you're trying to trick it. But if you do have 404s, then clearly the sensible thing to do is to 301 redirect those to a better page on your website. You don't want your users to see this. And what you usually do to find this is you look via your raw log files or using Google Search Console, and then simply redirect those to the best pages on your site. However, if you don't own the site or you don't control it, most people these days don't have access to their raw log files, or not easily. And they may not have access to Google Search Console, particularly if you don't control the client or don't have a good relationship necessarily with the client if it's not your client. And that's where there's a big advantage of using something like Majestic or Moz or other tools, because the Pages tab on those will show you immediately all the web pages, all the URLs on the site that have 404s. The other advantage of that is that you will be able to see 404s on other websites, on your competitors' websites. So if you have some content on maps of Europe, and your competitor has pages going to them that are linking to them that are going to 404 pages, then you can approach the people that are linking to them and say, hey, this map of Turkey or whatever it may be is now dead. Why don't you link to this beautiful map that I've got on my website? So low-hanging fruit is making sure that the 404s consistently on your site and your competitors are being mopped up and then redirected or reprogrammed to help your business. The second is also a trick, really, the internal link trick. And really, on everybody's websites, there are just too many factors to know exactly what's going to rank all the time. So if you look for slightly underperforming pages, that may be pages that are ranking just on page 2 or just below the fold, or pages that you think are very important to your customer but are not showing at all, those underperforming pages you can usually dramatically change by rearranging the links internally on your website. So you need to link logically to them from other pages on the website, and that will increase the rankings of those pages. There is a downside to that, because you have to remember that this information flows quite a lot, and internal links do not increase the amount of power overall. So every link that you put in there just changes the optimal balance a little bit every single time. You find these underperforming pages probably through rank checking, just trying to find phrases that are going on page 2 or just below the fold. Again, you can use all sorts of tools and metrics out there. You can use the log files and look at the ratio of traffic that's coming from search for a particular page versus the ratio of traffic that's coming overall, and find out what is underperforming in search, and that gives you a pretty good idea as well. So internal link building can significantly change things. I remember several years ago now, when I was on agency side, we were asked to rank for World Cup betting on the first day of the World Cup, when it's with the big gambling people. And really, ultimately, it was only when we started doing the internal links 3 or 4 days before the World Cup that we really started to get to the top. Now let's go on to some content, if I may, and the kind of content that BuzzSumo found was generating much more links than other types of content. And the first one of those was creating original insights and research. And I'm going to use the example that we started with of Eric Enge's insights into link building and looking at whether links are still a powerful ranking factor. This research was pretty fundamental within our industry, and was a new way of looking at the problem or the question of how influential links were. And so if you look, this is actually coming out of BuzzSumo's interface, because BuzzSumo have now integrated some Majestic data in here as well. And so this is a list of the different articles that Stone Temple have put out over the years, or over the last year. And the interesting thing is that most of them, the links here are in the second to last column from the right, and the number of links to this study, 285. And if you look at the other kinds of stuff that goes on their blog, 9 links, 5 links. Yes, they had a good one about RankBrain there with 104 and 29. But this article was significantly more important to the industry in some way, shape, or form that people linked to it. And it was because it was original insights and original research. So this effort that you put into stuff can make such a big difference if it is good content and good research. Another example of that is this website, Fact Tank. So if we go away from SEO, so Fact Tank came out with some research. They worked out that millennials, that's people that were born in the 90s, there were now more of them in the world, or in America, than baby boomers, which are people who were born in the 50s. So they'd worked this out, and they'd showed this on a chart. This was, again, new information to the world, and they were remind me later. Sorry, and they were able to show that. Now, this is a more popular thing because it's not SEO, and this had 1,748 links coming into it. So, very quickly that started to create good links into the content. Why? Because it was authoritative research and a significant data point which people could refer to and link back to in other work. The next example I want to show that BuzzSumo came out with was referenceable content. So this is information which may be a guide, but it's significantly deeper than most guides. So this is a social media marketing industry report that came out, and it was on a website called Social Media Examiner. And again, I'm using the data from BuzzSumo. And again, you can see here's 1, 2, 3, 4 different articles from Social Media Examiner. And most of them are getting 30, 40, 50, well, up to 80 posts. And then this one, that was the article, because it was not just another how-to, which are 2 of the other ones are how-to, and then the other one is six monitoring tools. This one was a proper guide, and all of a sudden, 513 links coming into it. A significant difference to the other types of content out there. So when I say that different types of content create links and some create shares, there is a significant difference in the different types of things that you need to produce to be able to create content. Valuable content is the next one that we wanted to look at. And here's another example, again, from the BuzzSumo study. This is Danny Sullivan on Search Engine Land, wrote about, he gathered all together the facts about Google RankBrain and that algorithm as it came out. And he pulled all that information together. And it became a really valuable resource for the SEO industry, who were at that time very much unsure about what RankBrain was and what machine learning was doing within the Google algorithm. So valuable content, again, gets a huge amount of links. And so what I'll do this time is I'll put in the Majestic toolbar as a different way of seeing the data. But that article actually got 9,500 links to it from 1,000 referring domains. I mean, Search Engine Land, even for Search Engine Land, that's a huge number of backlinks coming in. And it's because of the value of the content and the timeliness of the content, I believe.
What changed Google during the last update in the beginning of February?
I don't know. I tend to wait and have a look at what's going through. It was interesting that tweet I showed from Gary Illies came out the same day that the update happened. So I'm sitting there and hoping that he's trying to tell everybody it's link related. But I've not done any research on that to be able to verify or confirm or deny what's changed on that. One of the things about what I'm doing now at Majestic, luckily, I don't have to go through the paranoia of the Google updates every 10 minutes because I'm driving a technology. So it takes me sometimes longer to understand the repercussions of an update than others. And to be honest, some updates I have no interest in whatsoever because I'm so related to the links side of things. So I'm afraid I don't have anything fantastic to add to what other people I'm sure have said about things over the day.
And the last one, what do you think about the last Penguin update? What links we have to disavow and what of them are not? So,
you know what? I'm gonna have an argument with a lot of SEOs here in that I think that the disavow tool was really important for a long time with Penguin, but I think the last Penguin update, Google has realized that the disavow process has been quite problematic. It started with everybody running around sending emails all around the world a few years ago, as I'm sure everyone remembers, saying, take my link off your site, take my link off your site, and it just created email spam. It just converted link spam into email spam. And I think they've done a large amount to mitigate that, to stop worrying about that. And I hear, some people saying, "Oh, negative SEO bad links can give you negative SEO," and I'm actually with Gary in that I don't think that is happening. If you're going to disavow, that's great. We've got fantastic methodologies for disavowing sites. I would say that you disavow sites site-wide. Don't do it by page. That's a real big mistake if you start disavowing individual links most of the time, unless it's a very, very specific one. You should do it by the site, and that's because URLs change. It's amazing how, as we crawl 7 billion pages a day, we're going back and it's a different URL every time on those pages, and so URLs are constantly changing. So the same content, the same bad content, can be on many, many different URLs. So I would say if you're going to disavow, do it at the domain level. What I would say is that Majestic itself has a pretty bad link profile at times, and we have no disavow file. And I think that we rank fairly well for most things.